every voice, it counts them all. A team of hearts with plans to share. For every soul we're standing there. It's in the ballot, it's in our hands. Together we rise and take a stand. For every dream, for every need, community spirit is our creed. The vote is here to pave the way, working hard both night and day, delivering hope, delivering dreams. We are the ones who fuel the streams. Every corner, every street, we'll bring the change that we need.
And good afternoon, everybody. These candidates here are vying to become the next community board members for the Waikanae Community Board. But with every election, there's one thing stepping in their way, and that's your vote. No, I haven't had time. I'm overloaded. And coming here live from the Waikanae Community Centre, we've got our fantastic candidates here who are vying for your first preference vote for the Waikanae Community Board. How's Michael and Peter going?
I'm doing well, thank you, Sam.
Trying to find your microphones?
It's great.
It's great?
Everything's great.
Yeah, I was going to say, talk closer to it. They'll grab another one. There's a few of them there.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
No? Grab
another one, yeah, just so those at home can actually hear you, because that's equally as important as those in the studio. Okay, let's kick off. Michael, your 1 minute opening statement of why the voters of Waikanae should give you their first preference vote for the community board.
Good. Kia ora. My name's Michael Moore, and I'm standing for the Waikanae Ward Community Board. And I acknowledge the need to have a better discipline to council spending decisions and ease the rates burden. It's been the biggest topic in the last year or so. Over the last 3 years, I've built a strong connection across Waikanae, Rukarangi and Te Horo, and I've worked hard to deliver results as chair of the Waikanae Community Board. I supported real improvements from upgrading to the Te Horo beach facilities to securing and rebuild for our much-loved Waikanae library. I've also backed local grants for community groups and our historic hall rebuild and strengthening in Te Horo. I've led consultation about road safety and community security. I'm known as a proactive, skilled communicator who listens, turns up and listens to residents' concerns. Looking ahead, I want to keep pushing for better bus links, protecting our coastal environment, our predator control environment along the coast, and waterway management and flood proofing, which affects our roadways. So I'm the kind of person who will turn up, listen, and with your support, I'll carry on to be an advocate for our community.
Thank you for that, Michael. Next up, Peter.
Hi, my name's Peter Bowman. I currently live up in the Waikarangi Valley, and much to my chagrin, I discovered that I've been living there for about 18 years, so I'm well and truly a local now. I've been working predominantly in town over my career, and by working I mean with central government and commuting in Wellington. Most lately though, I've done a stint within the local council dealing with the projects in Otaki. We built the reservoir there, and we've been doing the wastewater system. I finished up there end of last year, and I'm currently working with the Salvation Army, and that's been a real eye-opener, particularly around the generosity of the residents and the people in the community here in Waikanae, in particular across Onsaki, and supporting the Salvation Army with what they do. They are one of the biggest social housing providers in the country. This is not an advertisement for them, it's an advertisement for me, and I'm really, really keen to keep working in with the community for you.
Okay, thank you for that, and thank you, Ken. That's the opening statements. Now, just for those who want to know, Waikanae Ward does have 4 positions for the community board, so hence why there's a lot more seats out there than what there are candidates, but it's all right. Not everyone can make it. We do have one who is standing for both Waikanae Ward and Waikanae Community Board, Phil. No, not Phil. I'll take a look at my list right now. What's it called? There's one of them that I've got on here who, is it Phil? Yeah, Phil's the one who's coming in at 4 o'clock, who can make one but couldn't make the other to try to get time with the train. But at least the train station's only across the road. So, with the community board shows, we do things a bit differently here. So, the things with community boards is your candidates need to work as a team. So, we're going to get our candidates to work together as a team to pick out our question cards between 1 and I. So, A and I, gosh. A and I. Actually, funny enough, 9 does have to, in Te Reo Māori is iwa. Yes, we'll sit there and do that. So, which question card should we go for first?
The number.
Well, the audience, between A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, or A? A. Okay. Okay, so let's kick off. What will be your preference for new street names to be based on in the Waikanae Community Board area? Example, former mayor's names, names gifted from local iwi. Michael.
Look, my answer to that is not any predetermination. This is usually something that's done with the community's involvement and consultation. They can come from various different ways, and usually something that's connected to that part of the community is usually something which I would be looking at when it comes before us as a recommendation. So, yeah, that's my answer for that.
Okay, Peter.
Well, my preference, of course, is for descriptive names representing the area, features, or historical identities. I live on Waikarangi Road. Love the name. It means the pathway up to the sky. And I think that's pretty apt for where we are.
Now, should we move on to question B? So move on to B? B for Bravo? Okay, so B for Bravo. How will you stand up for your community interests if it differs from your own position? Peter, you can start off.
Well, I'm always really careful about explaining my position, and if the community wanted me to take a different position, I would need to understand what the community wanted so that I can promote it. I have a habit of using 2 ears and 1 mouth, so I like to listen before I start speaking.
Okay, Michael.
Well, I'd say you should vote for this man here because he's quite sensible in his answering here. These roles of advocacy are listening to people and what they want in the community. And if you have a personal view that differs from the majority, it's an opportunity to listen to them and understand where they're coming from. And quite often in the last 3 years, I've just had to do that. And I know a lot of elected members do. They come in with a preconceived idea, but they listen to the evidence and can understand that there must be a better way to come to a solution or an answer. So, I wouldn't go in with one idea, and that would be it.
Okay, should we toss it up and go to I?
Yes.
Okay. How can the community board contribute to civil defence and emergency management in your area? Michael?
I think a lot of these answers are quite similar because this is a community collaboration role here where we work with the community. You can't run a civil defence operation or when there's a natural emergency or any other kind of emergency and direct it from a building down in Paraparaumu by council. That it needs community organisation and orchestration. We have community hubs all over the coast. We certainly have one in our rural area of Te Horo, and they're quite well organised and there's a system already in place when something happens that they come to. So that's how we organise things up in our area.
And Peter?
Look, absolutely, I agree. Up in Rakarangi, we've got the hall up there. There's a residents association. There's a strong local community support, and I think that the community board needs to be very well linked in with those smaller groups that are in those locations.
Okay, shall we go for H? Okay. How accessible is the current community board and what steps would you take to improve its accessibility if needed? Peter.
Some members of the current community board are very active, and there's one sitting right next to me, and very, very active online and very accessible. Some of the other members are a little less so, and I've had to work with the community board when I was working with council. So it was an interesting set of dynamics. For me, as far as I'm concerned, all the members of the community board need to have a bit of a plan for community engagement that allows them to represent their community to the community board and through to council. So I think it's got to be a little more structured so that everybody knows how they're all working together and how they should be working together.
Okay, Michael.
Yeah, we've got a very fragmented way of communication these days. We used to watch 6 o'clock news and 9 o'clock news on the radio in the morning and get the paper every day, and it's all changed dramatically now. So the way people gather their news and hear news is radically different. We've made a real effort in the last 3 years, Richard and I, who's also running again for this election, to actually take the community board meetings out around the community from Te Horo in the north to Rakarangi, where Peter lives, and down at the beach hall here in Waikanae and in this room here at the community centre. So we've been really quite accessible. One thing we did start with, when I took it over, I thought I'll put my hand up for communications because it's a love of mine, having good clear communications. We had about 300 or so on the community board's Facebook page. It was very non-active. We're now just over 1,000 on there. It's highly engaged. It's really active. And even if there's despondent groups on there who don't want to agree with us, at least we're sharing information and engaging.
Okay, shall we sit there and toss it up and go for E in the middle?
Sure.
Okay, what community projects would you be happy to support for community board council grants? Michael?
Golly, yeah, look, I'm a great believer that grants should be going to communities that are going to have a lasting impact on the community and affect the most people instead of giving things for that are not going to return a benefit to the community in which they live. Things like the Predator-Free program, which we've been supporting quite a lot over the last year as it's joined up from Paikakariki right up to Otaki. They're really good programs. They also not only help solve problems out there for our wildlife, but they engage and get lots of the community involved. We presented with a lot of grant applications every meeting. In fact, the next one, we don't have so many, but most of them we do have a lot, and we judge them on the merits of the benefit to the community and how it serves instead of a self-interest.
Peter?
I have a background of a number of years ago working in the Department of Conservation, and I spent quite a bit of time in Fiordland National Park. So I've got a really short answer. I'm really interested in putting grants into things like dune restoration, protecting waterways, rivers and streams. I think there's real community benefit in that.
Okay, let's move on to question C. How will you stand for the community at the council table on issues where the council is not in support of them? Peter?
I may look like a nice guy, but I'm actually I can be quite forceful, and I would be a forceful advocate for the community. I will question why there's no support by council for whatever the issue happens to be, and I really need to understand their reasoning. Through that, I'll be trying to find a way through whatever the objections are so that we can actually get a resolution, so that we can make progress.
Michael.
Yeah, we found on many issues when you sit around the council table, and at community board level, you do have a voice under the current mayor. We've been really elevated to that table to have a voice. We don't get a vote at the table at council level, but we have been actively involved on subcommittees with voting rights. But it's important that you take your opinion of the representing what the residents ask us to do and share it. There's been some examples where there's been some controversial developments that are going on, or take at the moment, where the boards all collectively got together and the chairs all agreed on a position to support a course of action and represent the residents quite loudly and make our voices heard. So we can certainly have an impact and be heard loud. So I think that's really a vital role of community boards.
Okay, let's get for D for Delta. How willing are you to work with local hapu and iwi at a community board level? Michael.
Okay, look, the more variety of faces and voices and opinions and experiences that sit around a table makes for better decisions. You know, it doesn't mean we all come together with one view of everything, and that's what these levels of conversations are all about. So I welcome different people around the council table. That's why I support a Māori ward coming in. I know it's a very split issue on a lot of people on where they sit on it, but I feel the more people that come around to have a conversation about complex issues in our community and contribute to that only can bring better outcomes.
Okay, Peter.
I'm very willing to work with iwi and hapu at a community board level. I've worked with iwi in various parts of New Zealand on behalf of the Crown, from Ngāti Whātua in Auckland and right through Rangitangi on Manawatu in various other groups. And then even more recently in Waikanae, when we were progressing the discussions about the library the last couple of years ago, and of course the Otaki Reservoir. So I think they're really valuable, they have valuable input and insights, things that I might not think about. So I think it's really important to get everybody's views wherever we can.
Okay, let's get for G for golf. What would your role entail if in overseeing the planning, regulation and implementation of traffic, parking, signage and related policy changes, including community consultation processes? Peter.
I'm going to get caught out here because he's actually doing this at the moment, and I'm envisaging what we'd do. Look, I think primarily I'd be about facilitating dialogue between council and the community, especially the specific interest groups. I ran the community consultation process a couple of years ago for the Waikanae Library in 22-23, which really engaged the community. And I think that was a real lesson on how to communicate and how to actually listen to the community. One little trick we did was when we talked to the community, and we got everybody to put their ideas up, we left everybody's ideas up so that the next group of people that came in could see what everyone else was saying. So it actually created a real community spirit around what the views and what the thoughts were about the library. So I think that was a real positive community engagement program. And that allowed council to make an informed decision on a solution, which is now being progressed.
We've done 9 questions, have we? Have we done 9 questions?
I'm not keeping count. Probably almost. Let's 6.
Well, I thought I was at 8.
Right.
8 or 9, okay. No, because I've done A, B, C, D, E, F. We've done G, H, I. Oh, God, we have done all of them. Okay. Yeah, let's get to our hard-hitting question. This is a very important one. What's your position on retaining the Kapiti Coast District Māori Board for the Kapiti Coast District Council and the Te Upoko Iti Iki Ao Maui Māori constituency for the Greater Wellington Regional Council, and why do you hold that position? Peter.
Look, I strongly support the retention of the Maori wards in Kapiti. They are a simple means of ensuring ongoing engagement with mana whenua and within the Kapiti area, and it creates greater transparency between iwi and council. It's as simple as that.
And Michael.
Yeah, it's appropriate you ask this kind of question just as our Maori ward candidate Jordan Wansborough just walked through, and Councillor Sophie Hanford, who are both great advocates of having good representation from different groups. I said earlier, it's a controversial subject to a lot of people, but to me it's quite simple. The more voices you have around a table to talk about issues and contribute their life and their worldview, comes to better conversations and better outcomes and better representations for people who don't have as much representation as others. It's not a level playing field for people to say that we all should have one group, one voice, one vote. In reality, the world doesn't look like that. The health service doesn't look like that. That's why we have different needs and different assessments for groups, and I welcome more people around the table, and we've done it in Kapiti. We've got one of the longest serving relationships with mana whenua in the country, and we should be really proud about that and what it achieves for us all.
Geez, two know how to make this a quick show. Ooh. Don't worry, audience. Once we stop rolling the cameras, you can grill them. Oh, no. You don't know what happened at Dennyvik. Yeah, no, I'd rather have not cameras rolling for that one, but we're not repeating that mistake again. Yeah. Okay. Well, since we've got through that very quickly, let's get on to closing statements of why you should receive the number one preference vote for the Waikanae Community Board. Michael.
Right. Well, I mean, I start by saying I'm already sitting around the council table and being really proud to represent my area. Te Horo didn't have much of a voice when I kind of came on board. We kind of fell down the middle of the gap. We're the only really last rural outpost of the whole district, and when the boundaries moved north up from Te Hapua Road up to School Road and included Te Horo into Waikanae, I was really pleased to advocate and get some money and resources into our community, which was often neglected and forgotten. And then getting very immersed in the issues around Waikanae and this controversial development that's happening right now, or proposed is happening down at Waikanae Beach, giving them a voice, going and meeting with them multiple times and listening to them and sharing that ideas with my other elected colleagues. I think there's a really good role of advocacy that you can do if you get out there and listen and take those views forward. So I look forward to doing that in the next term.
And Peter.
So what I think the issue for me is that what I'm bringing to this is a career across central government that's dealt with a lot of property and governance issues for government. So I've worked in Defence for many years, in DOC, Department of Internal Affairs, and various other agencies. I am a little bit concerned about some of the things within council in terms of the culture. I don't think it's quite, how do I put this delicately, customer-centric enough. I think there's some really good people doing really good work in council, but I think there just needs to be a bit of a culture shift in the council. And I think that starts with really good consultation, really good communication with all of the constituents through groups like the community boards, through the residents association, through Grey Power, through all of the other interest groups in the area. And that's of course where I believe I bring in a lot of expertise in terms of managing consultation and getting things done.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Now, just before we go, a little bit of housekeeping on how STV works. For the Waikanae Community Board, each voter will be using the voting system single transferable vote, where you rank your candidates in preference of who you want on the community board. In order to get onto the community board, a candidate has to reach what is known as the quota. The quota is the number of candidates standing plus 1 divided by the total number of votes. A candidate must achieve the quota of votes plus 1. If, for example, there are, a candidate receives 1,000 first preference votes, but only needs 650 to stay, to remain in position, they keep 0.65 of their votes, and their 0.35 of the remaining votes gets transferred to their second preferences votes and flow on down. If no candidate reaches the quota, the votes transfer at the bottom through what is called elimination, where the last candidate is eliminated and the second preference votes are redistributed. When it's elimination from the bottom, they are whole votes, and the partial votes that have come down from the quota at the top. And for those, if that basically makes sense, sorry, my brain's just gone into a bit of a blur. It's a good effective way to say this. In order for any of the candidates to cross the line, they will have to have achieved approximately 21% of the first preference and redistributed votes to be one of the 4 people around the Waikanae Community Board table. Okay, I think we'll head for closing credits. Thank you to our candidates for being here. Thank you to Nick for basically being 3 hats in one person, making it all work. And thank you to our audience for sitting down there, being there. Now, hit closing credits and then put on the mute.